Nenda kugeithia we muthikiriria wakwa wa channel ya Catherine Wainaina ndakunyita ugeni thĩinĩ wa segment ya muthenya wa umuthi. Ni njui ni umetereire muno na nie ni ngiukire nigetha ngurehere undu uria ugukuhe hope, ni tondu ni twarikanire. In this channel we are giving hope. Ni tondu tungiaga kirigiriro, tungiaga mwihoko thĩinĩ wa muturire, maundu no mathuke muno. Mbere ya tuthiete na mbere, ndirenda gukuririkania subscribe to the channel angikorwo ni rita riaku ria mbere. Karibu sana sana sana. No gikorwo ni gucoka wacoka, ndakunyita ugeni no thie na mbere na guikarwo hau, na you support me by sharing this video nigetha tukinyerie mundu ucio ungi utoi. Ningi ni ndenda gukuririkania ni turugamirirwo ni Wagon Investments Limited, aria ni endia indo ciothe cia macukuru, lab equipment and chemicals. Ugienda kumenya maundu mega mainie na maundu macio ma thukuru, no mahurire namba icio, you can reach out to them na ni gukorwo ugiteithika. Muthenya wa umuthi ndina mugeni very special, ni tondu yake ndiramwirire it's not just anything else, it's a ministry by itself. Ni tondu wira uria araruta ni gukorwo agitwira ni wira wa muthemba uriku, na niki giatumire aingire thiini wa undu ucio areka. Ni tondu undu wothe ni uri a story behind it. Thiini wa segment yakwa ya muthenya wa umuthi ngureheire a psychologist, na ndirenda akorwo introduce andu mamumenye nigetha tucoke tuingire thiini wa the story. Karibu sana Irene.
Thank you very much, Catherine Goy. I'm happy to be in the presence of many viewers today. My name is Irene Wainaina. I'm a psychologist. I'm also a recovery coach. I love the Lord Jesus Christ, and I'm working in the addiction sector because that's where we are affected. I'm also a parent, and I'm glad to be part of this segment. Wow. Thank you.
Wow. Muthikiriria wakwa ni njui ni wakiigua. We have Irene today, and I want her to take us through her journey and let us know why niki giatumire ingire hau ari, niki kia mu inspire gukorwo agika uguo areka. Ni tondu o toguo ndakwira undu wothe ni uri a story behind it. Irene, I want you to tell us more about your life. Irene aciarirwo ku, akurire atia, where she come from and all that.
I'm Irene Wainaina from Nakuru. I'm also a psychologist and a recovery coach. A recovery coach is someone who takes people through a journey, and the journey that I usually take people is recovery, because I believe we do recover. I'm also a mom, and I'm glad to be in this show. Thank you.
Wow. Irene, thank you so much. Ni undu wa kuona this, and having you here is a privilege. Thank you so much. God bless you. Now, I want you to take us through your journey, where you were born, you know, masomo yako and all that. Then we get the story.
That's a very good question. It's always good to know where we come from. Yeah. I am from Nakuru, Nakuru County. That's where I was born. I've lived in Nakuru for quite a number of years, but I didn't go to school in Nakuru. I'm the second born in a family of 8 children. I studied in boarding school in high school. I was in Kiambu. Then in college, university, I went to Nairobi, and I got married, and I found myself again in Nairobi at some point.
Wow.
And I also found myself working in Nairobi. And my previous job entailed traveling, so I would go to Garissa, I would go to West Pokot, because I was working for an NGO, and we were dealing with helping communities in getting water. But besides that, I'm also born again, and I'm glad to be of service, especially when it comes to matters community, matters impacting lives.
Wow.
And it's good to be in this show today.
Yeah.
Yes.
Karibu sana.
Asante.
We are glad that you are here, because I told them that there is a story behind Irene and what she's doing. And of course, I know that you'll tell us what happened. What drove you us having Irene and having what you are doing? Maybe you can tell us, when you were growing up, murerere waku wahanaga atia? How were you brought up? You know, kwanyu kwari kuria kwa itonga, and all that. Kana warerwo from a humble background, ugioka uguo ugikora hari uri.
Thank you, Catherine. I'm the second born in a family of 8. I'd said that. My mom was a career woman. She worked for Kenya Railways that time. It was a big corporate.
Yeah.
And my dad has been a businessman until today. And we found ourselves in a middle class. I would say middle class. That's the life I grew up. But at some point, my parents separated when we were in our early days of school. And just being 8 of us, that meant there was a lot of work in terms of my parents feeding for us. So they separated, and my dad just went missing. And we wondered, 10 years passed, 15 years passed. So I saw my mom raise us up single-handedly. She had to leave Kenya Railways, and now she began doing businesses, various kinds of businesses. But before that, my dad also had been very supportive because he was doing very well in his business. And he was this man who would clothe as well. We would go to Deacon's then. And he would buy for us very nice outfits and tiger and very nice shoes then, and he would provide. But at some point, because of the dysfunctionality of our family, we started getting affected. So at some point when my dad left, I saw a mom who was an angry mom. I saw a mom who was a bitter mom. I saw a mom who was no nonsense. So we grew up in that kind of environment, and an environment where everything was just enough. And at times it was not enough because she had to make us go to school. But I still affirm her that she enabled us to all go to school, but with just enough. But at some point, my mom also went out of the country. She went to the UK because she also realized she's not sustaining, with the income she had, she's not sustaining the upbringing of her children. So some of us were still in school. I had just finished Form 4 by then. I was transitioning to college. My brother was also transitioning to college. So all the others were in primary and some were in high school. So we don't have a present dad because they had separated. Then now my mom has left for the US, for the UK. And she left, and we didn't know when she will come back. But for us, we were like, at least Mama ameenda ngambo. Just the fact that ameenda ngambo, you know, that meant our status will change. And Mom stayed in the UK for more than 10 years. But she would really send money. In fact, her friends would tease her and tell her, how come you're not investing? Everything is on your children. But now when she would send money, my elder brother started becoming an alcoholic because he was the one who was responsible. And somehow he was so mean and selfish that he did not want any encounter with us with the money. So he was the one who was in control, because also my mom really loved him. And my brother was once the best student in Kenya, in KCSE. The first KCSE we ever did in Kenya. He was the best student. He was in a school called Naivasha Boarding. Then he was called to a national school. Everything sponsored. And he is this brilliant man. And now, when my mom started sending the money, he was very intelligent, in a good university, doing a good course. And what happens? Too much freedom, a lot of money, and he went down and down and down. So that was the first experience with somebody who was actively in alcoholism at that age, and I was in college. But for me, I've been a church girl. So I started having a rift with my brother because I would see where he's headed. And for me, I was the mom now and father. Because now my other siblings were in high school and they started also rebelling, especially my 2 brothers. Mara wamefukuzwa shule, mara wamekuwa victimized in strike. And now my mom was not there, my dad is not there. So who would go for those? And I'm in college.
Of course, Irene.
Unajipata umeenda, you're intimidated, you're still shy. And even the first, just your presence would even make the school, the admin, just to despise you. And wanasema wazazi wenyu hawajali. So I realized the gap of my parents not being there really affected our upbringing. Because now for my brothers, again, the 2 started engaging in defiant behaviors in school. So by the time
apart from the firstborn now?
Apart from the firstborn. Now these are the small ones, because now the first one is in campus, these ones are in high school. So by the time I knew later that they were actively also involved in substance abuse. I knew later. So at some point now, as now the transition went, my mom came just to visit, but she came for a very short time, like for 3 months. Then she transitioned to the US. Again, she left. And for us who were looking forward, now she's coming to settle and take her responsibility. Sure. So I found myself taking the lead in my family, because now my firstborn brother is not present. He's indulging, he's in a big way. And now mom is again gone and dad is not there. So again, I saw myself being the lead in the family, and I'm in college. So there was a lot of high expectation on my side. So I had to mature very fast. And I had to be very strict. I was this very strict sister. I was no nonsense at that time. Yeah. So at some point again, my mom, when she went to the US, she fell ill, and it was cancer, malignant cancer. Sorry. And she passed on. So when my mom passed on, it's like our lives came to a standstill.
She passed on in the US?
In the US. Because now she was the everything. She was the pillar. She was yet so far, but yet so close. Because of the financial support, moral and social support. Sorry. So we also found our dad now coming back. Upolopole tu, from now Nairobi. Yeshuka. That's the name I remember. My mom would say, Shuka. But now he started coming back. Yeah. And he came back upolopole, with a lot of fear, definitely, and resentment, silence. And for us children now, especially my brothers, they had resented. So actually he's coming back. My brothers now, it's like, at times when you do something, people will also respond. And their response was, umerudi utatuona. So they now rebelled extremely. Kabisa. So by the time they were finishing school, some had transferred to 3 schools. Some had been completely expelled, and it was not really a good thing. Yeah. So what now I started seeing a pattern in my brothers is now that addictive behavior. Addictive behavior of being the bad children in the estate. We grew up in an estate. And being the bad examples in the estate. So what did that also mean to us? As the sisters who are good girls, church girls, it meant our image had been dated. It also meant our self-esteem ikaanza kwenda chini. And the name was, wale wazazi wao waliwatupa. Oh God. And so that those words kept on, like at times they diminish us, and they destroy you. So I found myself in life telling myself at that time, I will finally make sure these people, whatever wame to label, I will turn these statements at some point. Then I went to church. I started understanding the word of God, that you can reverse such things, that you can be the last person to disconnect from the generational curse. And I told myself, I will be that one person. Wow. And I found myself always wanting to prove a point, because I'm trying to defend my family. Of course. So by God's grace, I finished high school. I told myself I'll get married. No one in my family had gotten married. I'll get married in church. Oh my God. I got married in church. And now Irene is shining. I was working for an NGO by then, because now I had finished college. Yeah. So at least Irene is driving these big cars, NGOs, by then. Her name is changing. But the worst part of it is that now my brothers' lives were degraded. And they went down, Catherine. And they went down, and they went down, to a point where now that was the label. We couldn't go anywhere, we couldn't pass anywhere. And very bright sons, very bright brothers, that was the statement. Watoto werevu wamejiwaste, they'll add up to nothing, they're useless. Oh my. Relatives. We didn't have a place even in terms of, social gatherings, family gatherings.
Come to think of it, yes. When all this was happening, where were the relatives? Because kuna vile kunatokelezeanga auntie anasema watoto wa sistangu, watoto wa bradhangu, sitaacha waende hivi.
Yeah. Actually, for the relatives, they were totally nowhere. apart from when we'd go for the gatherings, but when we'd go for the gatherings, he's been reprimanded. Nyinyi watoto ni wabaya, tabia zenyu ni mbaya, kwa nini mnafanya hivyo? Then they would say mlitupwa na wazazi. You know, like they would even now bash us more.
You would not even wish to go anyway.
Not at all, not at all. And it's sort of like they were celebrating, you know, hata hule, hata hule, hata hule. So at some point, now after my mom passed on, I also got unwell. I've also survived a terminal ailment, which had translated into cancer.
Sorry.
Of the colon. And during that time, my marriage also broke because my husband just left.
During the sickness? Or?
During the sickness. Now I'm married. I started getting unwell. And the condition was called colitis, a very rare condition in Kenya. And I went through treatment like for 3 to 4 years. But by the time I sought a second opinion from a friend who was very close, and she advised, Irene, have you ever sought a second opinion? I'm this person who at times can be very religious and stick to one doctor. I had never sought a second opinion. So she told me, I'm willing to work with you this journey because my husband is a doctor. So they worked with me the journey. So when I went through different procedures is when they realized I have no colon. And the way forward, or the way to now handle or manage that condition was just to remove the colon. So I went through surgery, Catherine, and the surgery entailed removing the whole of my colon and the rectum. So as we are speaking, I don't have a colon and I don't have a rectum. A procedure called colorectomy, where the colon is the large intestine, and it has its function. Every part of the body has its function. So it brought in so many challenges, and that's a point my husband also left. So I went through a lot of pain, physical, emotional, mental, because the person I thought was my greatest support system now was off. And my son by then was still very young, because we were still early in our marriage. So what did that entail? It entailed me transitioning back to Nakuru, because I had to be at a place where people are taking care of me, and being bedridden, you know, that life being fair, you know, I couldn't
you
eat
rely
normally.
on someone,
because now the system wasn't digesting food, and my everything just actually crumbled. Everything, a career, my health, my body parts, my status. You know, what I feared most, because that is what I was working towards. You know, like the way Job said, what he feared most happened to him. So what I feared most happened to me. So that was it for almost 5 good years. I was just rotating in the same place, and trusting God for my healing, and trusting God for my restoration.
And now Irene was shining. Irene was some hope and pillar in the family. Where are your brothers now that here you are, you are sick?
At that time, my brothers were still invisible, because I would not see them. My sisters were the ones who were most visible. So I believe they were indulging, and some got married, so they had their lives. But you see, now my support to them was very minimal. But apparently they loved me so much, because many other times I would see them come, but when they are so drunk, wananiletea nyama or something, but I would witness their support even at that time. And some would even just give me hope each and every time. But Catherine, as I was in that state, I would always give a prayer to God, and the prayer I would give to God, God, heal me so as I can touch lives and serve you. That was my only prayer. Sorry, 2 prayers, and so as I can take care of my son. Those were my 2 prayers, and I prayed those prayers. Then one time I had Joel Austin launch his book, Your Best Is Yet to Come. And I told myself, he's talking about his best, because I had wasted in terms of my body, because you know, with that condition, those are some of the symptoms. And I was wondering, what do I have to really say my best will ever come? I don't have money, I don't have a marriage, I don't have nothing. But at some point when the power of the word, it stuck somewhere in a file in my subconscious, And at some time it would replay, and I would try and block it, but it kept on replaying.
Yeah.
And it was bigger than now Irene. So I found myself saying, Irene, your best is yet to come. But I did it now practically, because I wasn't going in front of the mirror. I would go in front of the mirror and talk to that Irene. And I would tell that Irene, your best is yet to come. And during that season again, there was a lot of insights now. God started now giving me a big heart and telling me, I will use you. I will send you to nations. But that didn't even make sense. Then I remember he gave me an opportunity to study the Word of God. And that's the time I started connecting with the Word of God. Then at some point, he promised me, as the balm of Gilead, I'll be a balm to many.
Wow.
And a name was birthed, balm. And that name means healing. It's a soothing ointment that used to be gotten in a place called Jordan in Israel. And it helped to soothe the soldiers when they would go to war. So God reassured me that whatever your pain and your experience will bring healing. It might not really be the physical healing, but mental, emotional, psychological healing to many people. But Catherine, at that time, it didn't make sense. At that time, I did not even believe it myself, but it kept on replaying. So I believe in matters faith, because faith has gotten, faith was, faith comes by hearing. Faith was birthed and it developed and it grew, and I started activating that faith. So when I started eating, I started adding some little weight, and at some point I did some agribusiness. But I decided, when you will heal me, God, I'll go back to school and do psychology, so as I can be able to be of greater help to people. Then that time again, my brothers, because now my dad had come back, they went to rehab. So 2 of my brothers went to rehab. One of my brothers went to rehab in the US. And I realized, people can go to rehab. But my last born brother, when he went to rehab, he stayed for like almost 2 years clean.
He went to rehab here in Kenya?
In Kenya, one of them, but the other went to the rehab in the US. Because he happened to go to the US when my mom was unwell. So this young one, he's called Kimani. When he went to rehab, he left rehab, he was clean, and he was my favorite brother. And I told myself I will work with Kim. But at some point he relapsed, and he went down and down and down. So when I was doing my psychology, now for me, I told God, I've gone through personal pain in terms of loss. I've lost my body parts, my marriage, my resource, my finances, and also my brothers. The fact that they are deeply in alcoholism, then it's loss. It's loss, because we need to be a family. And addiction, we say it's a family disease. There's the user who is the infected, and there's the affected who is the family or the significant other. So for me, I'm still affected. So when Kim relapsed, he went deep, deep, deep. And at that time, I was in college, and I was doing psychology. And by the time I was in my last semester, I got a phone call. I get this phone call, and the person calls and tells me, we want a counselor. And we want this counselor like now.
Wow.
I told them I'm yet to finish college. I have 2 more weeks, because it was the week of exam. Could be just give me the 2 weeks. Once I finish, I will come. And that's how I found my feet in a rehab. And I started working in a rehab. And immediately I connected with the rehab. We call them clients, but here in BALM we call them thrivers. So I found myself I found myself saying, why a rehab? Counseling is very diverse. Why not, child counseling or trauma? Why a rehab? Some of these things are mystery. Then, like the way God just reminds you, I told you, you will be a balm. And this is bigger than you. Your pain is bigger than you. And this will help somebody else. So Kim, my brother then, had now gotten into deep, deep addiction, alcoholism. In fact, now he was in the dens. Alikuwa anakaa kwa dens. Alikuwa amefura because he's taking changas. He was completely dysfunctional. And I remember he came to me still when I was at the rehab and told me, Irene, mimi naona kama wewe ndio utakuwa my savior. Na nataka unisaidie. And he knelt down. He was very dramatic. Na akainua mkono. Mimi nimesurrender, nimefika rock bottom. And we always say in addiction, when you get to rock bottom, that's the best place to get.
Because sasa utaanza.
Yes. And I saw the genuinity in him. And I told myself, this is it. So I talked to the lady of the rehab. And she said, if it's your brother, I'm willing to do pro bono. I will give him free services for 3 months. And during that time when now we were just preparing his transition to rehab, akaanza kugonjeka, akaanza kutapika, akaanza kukuwa na so many side effects because of the withdrawals. Now he has stopped drinking. Ndio sasa transition. And the withdrawals took him to the ward. The ward, we thought it was a rehab, it was the ward to hospital because now they were extremely severe. So he stayed in hospital like for 2 weeks. When he was just being discharged, he passed on because of liver cirrhosis. Actually, the diagnosis was made after 3 days, and the doctor prepared us and told us the most he can stay is 6 months. But for me, I still had hope because liver is one of the organs in the body that can regenerate itself. But now for his case, it had really scarred. And the day he was leaving, in fact, I remember that Monday because he passed on Wednesday. He kept on telling me, Irene, umeleta nguo zangu za kuni discharge hosi. But kumbe the discharge wasn't the short-term discharge, it was the forever discharge. And that's how Kim left. And when he left, it was now a big blow for me. It was overwhelming. One, I'm working in a rehab. Two, he had come to me for that. He reached out that he really needs support.
And now he's gone.
The person now, I thought he is the light of now my family, because if he changes, my other 2 brothers will change. And he's my last born brother, and the potential, the amazing man he was, wow, that was a blow. So I found myself, in grief, there are 5 stages. I found myself staying in this stage called bargain and anger for so long.
You stuck there.
Yes, I was angry with myself. What would I have, bargaining with myself, what would I have done better?
God.
Angry with what I didn't do. Actually,
if only I did this.
Yes, I stayed there to a point where I found myself not going to work. They kept on calling. I told them, I've quit. No, this is not my thing. How? Why? How can God place me in such for that season to do such a work? Then the person one of the people that I love most, I ended.
Oh God,
so
sorry.
That was, it finished me. Then somebody came for debrief home. One of the counselor who used to come for supervision at the rehab, she came and we walked through that phase of grief. And actually, she's the one who just made me see a different perspective. And I found myself going back to work. And now when I went back to work, I went back with this perspective that this is bigger than Kim. It's bigger than Irene. It's bigger than my other brothers.
Sure.
It's about others. It's about somebody else. So when I went back, most tools, upole, I found myself now, we say after the 5th step of reorganizing and restarting, you're at a better place, but still, if not, memories will not erase. But now I told myself, I will do it for Kim. Actually, I went there saying, I will do it for Kim. And Catherine, God just gave me extra energy. And I just found myself now embracing this call and purpose with energy, with zeal. I read, I started writing a book then.
Wow.
And I found myself really, really focusing on relapse, because I told myself Kim has died because he relapsed. Now that was the argument in my mind and the conflict because of relapse. So I will study about relapse and how we can be able to manage relapse, because it's real and people don't like talking about it. So that was the experience then. But at some point, I stayed there for a while and life started transforming. Then God started opening doors. When God gives you something, he gives you the ability to perform, and also you stand out. And he distinguished. There's that distinction. So I found myself being called, come and consult with us on this issue on addiction. So nikapata I'm going to various rehabs.
Wow.
So last year during COVID, just when COVID had heightened March, April, most rehabs were not admitting because of COVID and everything. So nikajiambia, Irene, you have to do something about this course.
Wow, and I believe that's where we have BALM, because as I told my viewers, there's something, or there's a story behind everything that we see.
Yes.
Maybe even Catherine, they see there's a story behind
exactly,
her.
Exactly.
And I know so many know about it.
Yes.
Because every pain, as you said, every pain, it has a reason. You had to go through that, Irene, and I'm saying it with a positive attitude anyway. Because BALM had to be birthed, and you have, or you carry a great future. You have like a whole generation with you who are looking up unto you. Now, tell us more about BALM, because I know they are waiting to hear, after COVID has come, what was BALM.
All right, thank you, Catherine. Now, at that phase, rehabs are not really admitting. So what happens also to the consultants or whoever who is working, you're told, for now, you can't also access the rehab because we are taking care of the COVID protocol.
Sure.
So at that time, in December of 2019, I started feeling this push of, you have to start thinking about something else in relation to a treatment facility. And the conflict in my mind was the residents. I would want it, yes, but the residents. I have the expertise, I have the networks, could be, I know of 1 or 2, 3 psychologists and facilitators, but now the residents, where will they stay? And I'd already registered BALM of Hope. When you remember I mentioned about BALM, God gave me that name. Do you know, when I started being on my toes in college, I decided to register it as a faith-based organization.
You mean you registered or when you were in college?
Yes, not knowing about some 5 years to come.
That's a ministry.
Yes. So I told myself I already have a faith-based organization, so that won't be very hard licensing. But now the only challenge is the residents. Then God started speaking to me, use what you have. God told me, start here. And
your own house?
My own house.
Okay.
Start here. So I conflicted with that. I told myself, not here. God, I'm sure you're going to give me some money. I rent out a big bungalow somewhere.
Ukijiambia.
Yes. So I don't think it's here. Then my son loves his space. What about him? So I battled with that. Then again, there was a friend who called and told me about just what is being impressed in her heart, that Irene, you're going to go to nations. How and when, I just don't know.
Confirming the word.
Yeah, from very far. She called from very far. So ndio nika conflict na hiyo mambo. Then I decided to share with my son what I'm feeling. My son told me, Mom, hizo story hapana. Room yangu je, tutenda wapi? Space, nini, uko ni home, you know?
Yeah.
Then I told him, you are hardly here, because he's in the university in Nairobi. You are hardly here. So I'm just here by myself. Then akaniambia hapana. But after 2 weeks, he called and told me it is okay.
Wow.
In fact, it is okay. And you know, when he told me, I was just waiting for that one confirmation. I was almost, I hit the road running. County,
when the came.
Kulipa licenses. I called a fundi. We started renovating 1, 2, 3 things. And I left everything that I had in this in the center, because now it's a center. I left everything. I left with a coach and a bed. His bed was the only one I left, because it was a chuma, a steel bed, and that's the requirement from NACADA. We use steel beds, not the wood beds. And since it was a steel bed, I didn't have money to buy. I decided to leave his bed.
Wow.
And that's how I moved out.
Mm-hmm.
And that was in June last year. So I went and got a place. And I started with one client who is called Moses.
Mm-hmm.
And Moses, I had met him some 2 years ago. And we started with him and with one residential counselor and
Mm-hmm.
a chef. And we've grown until today. We've been able to reach out to 31
Wow.
thrivers.
Oh my God.
The capacity of the house is 10 because it's not, we don't squeeze them so much. And again, we are still trusting God to grow. And we've reached out to 5 ladies. We can admit at least one lady. And the others have been men in the male. And one unique thing about BALM is we use a model called the SMART recovery. SMART stands for not the yenye tunajua ya goal setting. It stands for self-management and recovery training, where we believe for the thriver to get to a certain level of growth and change, they have to first accept their problem and to work towards change personally. So there has to be the aspect of self-awareness, social awareness, spiritual awareness, because after a spiritual awakening, that's when they get to a point of breaking and reformation.
Wow.
Yes.
Irene, I'm just thinking, what, apart from your son, the other family members, walifikiria aje? How did they receive those news? Like, Irene anahama and now nyumba yake amerenovate ikuwe, you know, a center. How did they receive that?
My dad told me no. I remember he said, right now, kila mtu anafunga biashara. So he saw it as a business, definitely. And he told me, goja until mambo ibadilike. But at some point when he saw I'm not giving in, akaniwacha. Everybody watched from afar. Actually, there's only one of my brothers who was in the US. He had come. He's the only one who celebrated me. Actually, he's the one even who did he's the one who did the rules for BALM, gave me so many ideas. He had some literature that even until today we are using. He completely supported me. Then now my dad came on board and he was like, start, then we will see what he may like seeing. If you've started, then he supports. And I join. Yes. But for the others, they've been silent until today. Actually, what they see is what I put on media. The stories behind BALM. And they comment, but they are not so much there. And Catherine, BALM was born because of, in memory of my brother Kim. Wow. Kim left for us two daughters. One just finished Form 4 this year. Wow. And the other one is in Form 2. So even in many functions, I always invite those girls. And I always tell the crowd that this center is here because of my brother, who is late, because we say addiction is also a family disease. But now these girls, I pray that they will also spread this message. So that is the reason why BALM is here. And I've seen lives transform. I've seen a lot of connectivity with people from far, people I've never seen. They've come to BALM. And there's a time, Catherine, maybe let me say this because this is very symbolic. There was a time somebody, where I live here, where we are right here, there was a time somebody, like 6 years ago, came from very far. I had a gazebo where we are seated. Yeah. And the gazebo had this pillar that at times you align the other structures with. And he followed that stick from like 10 kilometers away, and he didn't know where he's going. But he came and knocked the gate. But that is like 6 years ago. This place wasn't what you're seeing, because even for the trees, we planted with my son like 4 years ago. But he followed that stick, yeah, and he came and knocked the gate. And when he knocked, apparently we were there. It was on a Sunday, and Nikam welcome too, and he said, he's coming here for a purpose. There's something he's seen, and he's seen a beacon of light in this compound. Wow. And he told me it is in a very specific place. So he told me, kuna kitu umetengeleza hivi na iko na kamti hapo juu, nipeleke hapo. And the gazebo was here, but tuliitoa. And he told me this is a holy place, and it will be a light to many people.
Wow.
And out of the many homes in this area, people will come from far and wide.
Wow.
Because there's a light that will spring from this place. And Catherine, I'm telling you, the people I've hosted in BALM, right now I have 3 tribes. I have a Luo, I have a Luya, I have 2 Maasais, and Kikuyu is actually 4 tribes. And they're all only 2 are from Nakuru. There's Narok, there's Kisumu, there's Samburu, there's Nanyuki. Meaning, you know, that light actually is what he was talking about. And now it's bigger than me. Yeah. It's bigger than Irene. Then another unique thing about BALM is we believe in empowering and equipping souls in terms of their spirituality. Because there has to be a connectivity with the higher power. Yeah. And there has to be a spiritual awakening. Because all the other tools and coping skills might fail, but God will not. Amen. And we really also focus on that. Another strength is 2 weeks ago we launched our cottage industry. And this cottage industry is to empower the thrivers, that by the time they live here with a skill. Wow. And because they are so gifted, they are so intelligent, and with all this, at times it goes to waste, and at times the family don't support. Yeah. So what we are saying is we will work on their different skill. If somebody is good in processing, a cottage industry is a place where they can be able to incubate an idea, and from the idea they're able to also replicate it. So for example, it's processing. If one can make yogurt, we will give you the opportunity. You incubate that idea, we build on it through the different experts. Then by the time you leave here, you will be processing yogurt. Wow. If it's whatever small things that God will enable us to do, we will do. So we also have that part as part of strengthening their skills and also sustaining them in recovery. Because what happens with addiction, idleness is also another big factor. Exactly. Of indulging, because at times you don't know, you don't have what it takes. But again, at times families also don't have what to give, you know. So we are saying that it's possible for you to come out with a skill, and the family now, we usually have something called a family therapy, because we engage the family a lot, because the family is also very affected. In fact, at times they come for sessions, we don't even focus on the thriver, we focus on the mom or dad or wife or husband, because they are completely powerless, you know, and the drain that they've had because of their son or their husband or wife. So again, we focus on that and we support them and we help them realize this is a disease, but this person is transitioning from a rehab and they need to be stable and to sustain their recovery. So maybe try and engage them in 1, 2, 3. Try and love them, try and support them. Yes.
Wow, that's an amazing journey. And I'll say I'm very proud of you, because whatever you are doing, not only, aligned with your career, yes, but I think it's a ministry by itself, because having people here whom are recovering from that dark past, it means a lot, because you're giving hope to that person. Now, here we are today, and I know there are some people who have gone through your hands. How do you feel? Saa zile unaona mtu come into BALM Wellness, anatoka akiwa sawa, and then maybe they come back, you know, those reformed people. How do you feel?
Wow, I think that's my peak. That's my peak moment. In fact, I always comment in my status, today I've attained fulfillment. Wow. And self-actualization. You know, in life we all want to self-actualize. And you know, some people measure it in terms of resources, money, status, power. But for me, I measure it in terms of change and a transformed life. When I see that, I've self-actualized. So for me, it's a great joy, it's a great fulfillment. And just that alone makes me get motivated for tomorrow, and even now do it with more strength. Wow. And more, you know, and more zeal and more passion. Because if this person has changed, there's something we encourage here, that even that's what our logo says. it's like a candle. You know, you've changed, but now go change many others.
Sure.
Carry this candle and change many others, because that one change now is affecting other people, from family to community, and now to the nation. Yeah.
Wow. Another thing, you mentioned about your family, and I'll give you this chance to talk to parents, because I believe kila mtu akona part yake to play in the family. Please talk to the parents. They have a they have a stand when they are bringing up their children.
Viewers, it's very important to understand that addiction is not just for the person who is using. Addiction is a family disease, and addiction is birthed from pain, and the pain comes from the family. A lot of that pain mostly comes from the family. So again, that means that we have a responsibility as parents, as sisters and brothers, to use what we call preventive measures, especially for young parents. As you're raising your children, there are so many things that we can prevent before it becomes the elephant in the house, or before it becomes an addiction, because there are 5 stages of addiction, and it all begins from curiosity. Then once you're curious to do something, you want to experiment. So kindly parents, let's take note of that. Again, let's engage and indulge with our children, what they are doing. And addiction is not just substance addiction. There's also activity addiction, which mainly has other things that fall under that. There's pornography, which is an activity addiction. There's gambling, there's gaming, and those are things that are happening in our homes, and they are happening when we are present, simply because our children have been exposed to gadgets. And definitely the gadgets are good, but at times there are those things that they bring. And we are finding now those addictive behaviors grow into something addictive. So parents, be careful of how your children spend time, because that is very important. It's important to also have home programs where those programs should be geared towards productivity, development, creativity, expressive therapy, more than other social indulgement, where they're abusive and they're destructive. Another thing, let's work with peers, people who understand these young children. Let's work with peers. And in case you have an addict, because I'm sure we are all affected in one way or another. You could be an employer, you could be a family member. In case you have an addict, one of the things that they would love, that the addicts love, in order for them now to start realizing that they need help, is first to understand them and to understand that the addiction is a disease. Number 2, try and avoid judging them, avoid blaming them, avoid treating them like children, and just embrace them in a very small way, because one thing that lacks is trust. Because this person has messed up, this person could be entrusted with something. Maybe if it's a student who is in college or university or high school, they've been entrusted with education, but they've deferred, or they've failed. Just trust them in a small way, and now start connecting with them. And one of the opposite of addiction is connectivity. So start connecting with this person, start embracing them. And even for the women, we have so many of our girls, but for parents, because of the stigma and even the society have labeled them, at times we don't want to talk about it. We are just hiding our own. But let's also reach out. Help is available. Try and reach out, look for sources where you can get this support. Treatment is also available. Treatment works. There are many therapies, which at times we call them integrated therapies. So let's not assume that it's over. It's not over. There's hope. And since this program is giving hope, there is a lot of hope, even when it comes to recovery. We have a slogan that we say, we do recover. We do recover.
Wow. That is beautiful, Irene. I am proud. I'm super proud.
Thank you,
of Irene and what you are doing. Now, there's somebody, maybe an addict, mwenye anatusikiza, ama mtu akona an addict, and maybe wamefika mwisho. Kuna vile they, you know, tunasukuma hao watu, we take them away, we drive them away from us. What can you tell them? Because I believe there's something that we can do for them.
Yeah, thank you, Catherine. True enough, we really, really drive them, but there's a lot we can do for them. One, these people are extremely smart and very intelligent in their brains. What about if you start believing in that intelligence, believing in the skills they have, believing in their wisdom, because they are also very wise. Because a human being, we always want a safe place, and a safe place is a place where I can be trusted. Somebody can listen to me. Somebody will listen without judging me. I think that's one thing that we need to provide to the addicts, or to anybody with any addictive behavior, or even depression or any mental health issue. People want just that space where they can be trusted. And it does magic, because they will start opening up. And once you start having that communication and dialogue, so many things will unfold, and you'll be able to get to the core of the problem. Even in church, they can be taken to church. They can engage in social groups, groups where they can thrive and blossom, and also get help. Yes.
Wow. Now, I want you to tell us maybe something more, what you do in BALM, and give us your contact, where we can find you, because watu wanasikia tu BALM and all that.
So at BALM Wellness, we have an outpatient program, and the outpatient program runs on weekdays mostly. People come for therapy, because mental illness or mental health is something that we are all affected, and we do therapy for people with depression, for people with trauma, family issues, students may be struggling, and we also have an inpatient program now, which BALM Wellness is a treatment facility where we accommodate people with addictive behavior or conditions or disorders like bipolar and depression. And the program is a 90-day program, which translates into 3 months. And during the 3 months, we run a comprehensive support program. And the support program mainly includes vocational skills, psychoeducation, individual therapy, group therapy, peer therapy, and even ecotherapy, where we engage them outside. They also have the spiritual therapy with a spiritual coach who engages them, matters the word of God. But this is more relationship. It relates to what the word of God says and their situation. Because at the end of the day, hope comes from God. And briefly, that is who we are. We are based in a place called Malsita, in Nakuru, Bahati sub-county. And our contacts are BALM on email. It's balmwellness@gmail.com. On Facebook, it's BALM Wellness. Our contacts are 0727259235. 07259235. And it's a 24-hour e-therapy contact. And thank you so much, Catherine, for having me on your show.
Okay. I will say thank you so much for enlightening us on mambo na addiction and all that. Having BALM on board, we are so much honored. God bless you for the great ministry in you, for what you are doing for us, for the society, for the generation, and for God, because this is all round. God bless you, and we are wishing you nothing but the best as you continue with this. And I know that in some years to come, we'll have a bigger picture of BALM, you know. So God bless you. Have a very wonderful time, and we are looking forward to calling you again.
Thank you.
Ukituambia maneno na, you know, so many things that, you know, the society has a lot, and we are experiencing so much, and sometimes we are overwhelmed. We'll call you again and address the audience on some matters arising. So God bless you, and have a nice time.
Thank you.
So mwiroreri wakwa ngwiciria ni wathoma undu muthenya wa umuthi with Irene, because undu wothe wikikaga na gitumi, na no koruo ru we uragera muthenya wa umuthi ni ureuria why, but there is a tomorrow, na rucio ru ni rugakorwo rwi great, na ni uka appreciate ona ruo ru ruothe wagereire, tondu uragerera ni tondu no korwo kwi muturire wa mundu ugacenjia in the near future. So ndugakue ngoro, wikire hinya. Turaugire haha ni hakuheana mwihoko. It's all about giving hope to you. Ni tondu wa rucio ru turauga the bright tomorrow or the bright future. And nguga atiriri, ati rekei tukorwo twi our brothers keeper. Rekei twende kumenya mundu ucio ungi arathira undu hana atia, na gikorwo no uhote guteithia, teithia mundu ucio nigetha akarugama nake agateithia angi magoka thutha wake. And until next time, I say God bless you and thank you so much. Continue subscribing, sharing this video. Now spread the gospel about Catherine Goi's channel. Ni tondu haha hena mwihoko. Not about me, but our God. Bye bye and shalom, shalom, shalom.